The September new moon in Virgo makes a trine to Uranus, and so I'm calling this Rebellion with a Plan. It's all coming up. Hi everyone, I'm Donna, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the new moon in Virgo that happens on September 6, 2021. This is a really interesting new moon because it makes a trine to Uranus, and there is a configuration with Mars, Jupiter, and Pluto that we're all going to talk about. So let's take a look at this chart, and what we are doing today is tropical Western astrology. And so we are looking at the Virgo new moon making a trine to Uranus. And this is an exact trine, and this energy, while the energy for the moment is fleeting, this is the new moon, and so therefore this energy will carry with us for the 2 weeks until we get the chart for the full moon. So in this, what we have is, of course, the sun and moon coming together for the new moon, making that trine to Uranus. Now, Uranus is a very interesting planet. It rules unusual things, unexpected happenings. It also rules technology and innovation. It rules the community and where the community is going as a whole. And so why I say that it's such an interesting planet, it is because most planets spin on their axis like they're a top. But Uranus, which rules unusual things, actually spins as though it was a bullseye with the North Pole pointed at the sun. And so we have a little confirmation that this planet does represent this unusual or unorthodox energy. Now, when we do the trine energy, a trine is something that a lot of people think as being very harmonious and very easy. But when it's with a difficult planet, as Uranus can be, what happens is that the energy easily flows to us. And so the nature of Virgo is to have a plan. It is to incrementally make things better through very minute changes. And so this is like a person who's maybe loading a dishwasher, and the first time they load it, they find that the forks didn't really get clean, and some things in the back weren't so good, and the glasses were spotty. And so the next time you load the dishwasher, maybe you turn the forks right side up, or perhaps you move the heavier, grimier things towards the front, or you try a different formula of your detergent. Like you're a chemist doing your detergent yourself. You might buy a different detergent. And so this energy of Virgo is not very happy to have this very unexpected, breaking free, rebellious sort of energy that is in this harmonious aspect. And so it's like a person is either planning out their rebellion, like here's where we're going to have the ladder and we're going to climb over the wall, or, we're going to set a fire in the kitchen and ride out in the garbage truck, or whatever you're going to do. It is this planned idea of the escape. Or it is that your plans are disrupted by something external, maybe somebody else's rebellion. And so this is what we want to watch for. Of course, the ideal is to take sudden, unexpected action where it is sudden and unexpected for other people, but that you have a plan. And so that might be that maybe you have been working on a side business all this time, and now it's strong enough for you to quit your job and do it full time. And so all of the coworkers who didn't know about your side business might be completely shocked and inspired that you are making a break for it. And so this would be a very good use of this energy. Now, it's also an interesting phenomenon that sometimes when we plan things out and the universe thinks it's a good idea, the universe gives us a little shove. And that is that perhaps you do have a plan for escaping a job you don't like, or a situation at home you don't like, or a neighborhood that's changing in a way you don't like. And so you've written out your plan, you've thought it through, you've visualized it, and then the universe gives you a shove. And in that case, it would be that suddenly you've lost your job, or that your landlord tells you you have to move, or some other circumstances create the external need for a change. But fortunately, you have a plan. So then, of course, our response could be, whoa, universe, I'm not ready. And because when the universe takes over, it's kind of like we're just bobbing along in a little barrel or along a stream, and we're wondering if we're, going to go over Niagara Falls. It is that at that point where you need to say to yourself that you trust yourself, that you are looking at the things you've accomplished in the past, the decisions you've made in the past, and finding those things that you feel were correct and beneficial, even if at the time you felt like you were flailing around, that you did end up making good choices, and recognize that is part of you. Of course, sometimes we focus on the things that we did not do well, the mistakes we made, and we can see those so strongly, and especially with the Virgo energy that wants to correct any sort of errors or inefficiencies or processes that are not the best. But it's very important now to also recognize what you did do correctly, or things that maybe you didn't do perfectly, but now you would be able to do better because you've had that experience. Now, this is all happening in earth signs, and earth signs are the more practical side, and that is about doing something in the real world. So we're talking about, handling money differently, handling opportunities differently, looking at the way you go about your daily life and making changes. So, some of the things that come to mind, of course, are the obvious things, stopping smoking, stopping drinking, giving up sugar, maybe even doing what they call a dopamine detox, where you turn off all your electronics for a day or longer, and you allow yourself to be communing with the universe and with your higher self, rather than just being fed all of the stuff that we do in social media. So this is more about a practical change rather than just a change of thinking. And so this is taking us outside of the planning stage, where you might be visualizing what you want to do, or actually writing out the steps of what you want to do, and actually diving in. This is also not about just sticking a toe in the water. This is a trine to Uranus, and Uranus is a big change. And so this is actually finding that courage to say, you know what, I'm going to trust that I know what I'm doing and that I can handle things, and then moving forward. Now, the other thing that's quite significant in this chart is we have 3 planets at 24 degrees. And again, this is something that would change over the course of the days, but because it falls on the new moon, we have this energy for the 2 weeks. These planets are Pluto, Jupiter, and Mars. Now, the interesting part about this, I don't know how many times I've said interesting in this video, but the interesting part of this is they are not in a harmonious configuration. And so this is that we are being possibly thrust into some new unexpected action, something that we were wishing for or planning for, and how the wheels are turning. It's kind of like we're either driving a car with square wheels, or we're grinding the gears, like we haven't shifted correctly. So Mars is making an inconjunct to Jupiter, which is making a semi-sextile to Pluto, which is making a trine to Mars. So we do have one positive aspect. I shouldn't say it's entirely a bad configuration. But the issue comes in where, while we're going to dive into something new is changing, and it's fairly big. The Mars trine Pluto is talking about really focused action, but when we bring in the Jupiter, in other words, that idea of expansion or going bigger, that's where we go wrong. This is where you're trying to tackle a very big project, but you almost bite off more than you can chew. This is where you are announcing to the world that you're going to do something, but you do that old Steve Martin idea, that Steve Martin joke, which is, I want to be master of time, space, and the universe, and then I want to go to Europe. That idea that it's not quite in the right order is this aspect. So it is trying to, wrestle the alligator first, and then it's the visit to the petting zoo. So this is what you want to watch out for. You do want to, go with the flow, let the universe guide you, because the universe is going to open some, exciting opportunity for you. There is something, and this is something that you have been either wishing for or planning for, or it's been in your mind that this could be a possibility. And when that door opens up, you want to stick with your plan and not let Jupiter take you and carry you away, because that's the energy that is really inharmonious here. Now, all this said, I just wanted to remind you that Mercury is going to go retrograde in about a month. That is on September 26th. And so if you are thinking about launching a business or starting a new job, if you're thinking about moving, if you are thinking about doing anything major, let's try and get it done before September 26th, because starting things during the retrograde can have some problems. Now, there's a whole bunch of nuances about what you can do during Mercury retrograde period to really benefit you. Myself and another astrologer, Tammy Magaro, are working on a book right now on this very subject, and we are going to be launching that very soon. And so look for that. But in the meantime, just recognize that you have about a month to get a lot of stuff done before Mercury turns and goes the other direction. And one more little side note, there's an extraordinary amount of astrology energy in this chart. I know that's funny to say because it's an astrology chart, but Uranus rules astrology, and so does Aquarius, and so part of the configuration that I'm talking about is in Aquarius with that Jupiter, and then the Sun and Moon are making a trine to Uranus. So if you've been thinking about studying astrology or learning more about it or getting a reading of your chart, this is a good time to do that, because this can help you spot the new opportunities that are ahead. But I want to remind you what I have talked about before. Your astrology chart is like a GPS. It's a map that tells you what's going to happen ahead, whether there is free sailing or there's obstacles or a cliff or something like that. So you want to use it as your guide, but it is not set in stone. There are ways to channel the energy, to use especially challenging energy in a way that's positive. Just like a person who wants to climb Mount Kilimanjaro still has to make a very tough climb, and that's a lot of work and all that, which could show up in a chart as an obstacle, but it's something the person wants to do, and so therefore they're not seeing it as a negative. And so when we are talking sign by sign, remember that even if you're not showing possibilities, you just want to see this as your guide. And so if there are some blocks in an area that you are wanting to move forward, maybe it's time to step back and regroup. Maybe it's just time to pause for a couple of weeks, or maybe you need to look at this as your Mount Kilimanjaro and strap on your backpack and start climbing. Welcome to my channel. So I'm a professional astrologer. I write books on feng shui and astrology, as well as Chinese astrology. I also write weekly and monthly columns for various websites, including astrology.com. Additionally, I have some video courses, and one of those is how to find the hidden money in your chart. This is about using your natal chart to see where money is flowing in and to see if there are any blocks and what you can do about those. Okay, Aries natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of work, health, and daily routines. And of course, it's making that trine that we were talking about in the introduction to Uranus in your house of money. So what this is saying is that when you have a plan for job, health, or when you are incrementally making your life better by changing your habits or routines, you are going to find some major benefits in the financial area. And so this is more about looking at where you can streamline things or eliminate things or delegate things versus adding more things into your life. One of the pitfalls of having this is you could try to motivate yourself through criticism, and that is actually not a good motivator. And so what I would suggest is that you want to take some of the things that you want to implement, things that you might have planned for next year, and see if you can't move up that timeline. See if, it's time to actually sit down and work on your resume now, or apply for a new job now, or sit down with your manager now and get something going. It's also maybe time to stop for a moment and understand why you've been hesitating, because at that point, once you get a moment of clarity, it's likely the universe will step in to give you some beneficial energy to help you along. Now, when it comes to relationships, you have some very interesting energy because both Mercury and Venus are in your house of relationships, and this bodes very well, especially for meeting someone new, meeting somebody who you feel very attracted to, meeting someone where there's really good communication. So all of those things could happen. Now, Venus is at 25 degrees, so I didn't include it in that configuration. But if we said it's close enough, it's almost making this kind of wonky little treasure chest, like a treasure chest that's so skewed or so warped, it's hard to open. And so that's what I'm seeing for you now. This is in addition, of course, to the Mars being semi-sextile to the Venus. And so everything it's kind of like it's there, you can see it, but you can't quite get your hands on it at the moment. And so what I'm expecting is that over the next 2 weeks, maybe you are dealing with your inner thoughts and deciding, yes, that you are ready for a relationship, or recognizing that you might have been blaming externals for not having a relationship in your life. And now you see, oh, wait, it is me. And then, of course, that makes the blocks remove. And so over the 2 weeks, I think that you could meet someone new, but it's going to still be a little bumpy. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that moon, which is doing the trine to Uranus. And so there might be an unexpected expense that you need to do, but somehow this expense is something that's going to be valuable to you in the future. So this could be upgrades to the house, or if you rent, this is having to buy something, but you can take it with you when you go. So there may be something where you're putting some money into the house. It's also possible that there is something going on with maybe a relative where you are having to bail them out, but because you're doing the trine energy, perhaps they have bailed you out in the past, and so you're just reciprocating. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Venus in your house of relationships, and so that does mean that the more people you meet this time, the more money you're going to make, so that is fantastic news. It is part of that little wonky treasure chest that I was talking about, and that means that as you meet people, you might think that the person in front of you is the person who's going to become your customer or your client, but it's actually their cousin or their friend. It's not such a direct line, and so, but that cousin or friend turns out to be your best client ever. So it is. Try to stop yourself from getting disappointed. If the person in front of you is not buying, there is still something that's going to happen through a chain of events. Now, when we look at money from business or from traditional investments, well, you are doing an amazing aspect, which is the Venus square Pluto. And that does say that you really can accumulate more money at this time. Now, the Venus is in that house of others, and so it might be that you are doing some sort of partnership with someone for an investment, or you are finding the perfect partner for your business. But I see really positive things coming forward. When it comes to money derived from career, the energy is a little more difficult. Not only do we have Saturn in that house along with Jupiter, but Jupiter making the inconjunct to Mars, so it's not a happy Jupiter at this time, but also Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus, and so therefore this is not the time to pursue more money in your existing career. Now, because you are doing your money house in conjunction with, well, not a conjunction, it's a square, but you are doing an aspect between your money house and that Pluto in your house of career. I do like that energy for getting another job. However, you're still going to find some challenges in negotiating your salary. So focus, if you are doing a new job, on negotiating more time off or a more flexible schedule or some other perks, because actually they may be quite firm on the salary. When it comes to money from risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, it's pretty quiet over there. There's just sounds of crickets because the sun is not making an aspect with Venus, and because of some of the other unpredictable energy that is going on over these 2 weeks, I recommend you going in very, very cautiously, because it's almost like a trap could be sprung, like you think you've got everything lined up, but there's one little addendum you didn't see in the contract or one little proviso that just catches you off guard. And while this is a trine energy for this new moon and you would learn a valuable lesson, learning a valuable lesson while doing risky investments, that can be really challenging. So be super cautious over this next 2 weeks with your risky investments. Okay, Taurus natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of children, fertility, creativity, pleasure, dating, and risky investments. Yeah, that's a lot. Now, it is making the trine to Uranus in your own sign of Taurus. Now, Uranus has been going through Taurus for some time, and this has been enough disruptive energy for you already. This is causing you to look at your status quo and the things that are stable in your life and saying, you should get earthquake insurance because underneath is not stable. Of course, this is some energy that has happened over years of time rather than just this 2 week period. But what this is saying now is it's kind of like a little test for you to say, have you learned to be versatile? Have you learned to be flexible? Are you willing to change? Because here comes an opportunity for you. And this opportunity could be, it could be for one of your kids, but, we're reading for you. So this could be an opportunity for your creative work, for a risky investment, for a romantic encounter. So you have this opportunity, but it's going to require some sort of shift on your part, not on theirs, because the Uranus is in your sign. When we look at that configuration, the easiest energy of that is about taking a bold step, which would be that Mars trine the Pluto. It's interesting because we can pull in the Venus, which is your sign ruler, and that Venus at 25 degrees could be considered part of this configuration. I didn't talk about it initially because it's a little bit out of orb, but if we pull that in, what we have is a kind of a treasure chest that is askew, and that means that it's very hard to open, as though it's warped in some way, so you really have to do an effort to get it to work. So going back to what the easiest energy is, it would be to do something that is creative that you are publishing or putting out into the world. That would be the Mars in the 5th trine that Pluto in the 9th. So, but you cannot take it fully to something big, like viral, because of the semi-sextile to Jupiter. And the Venus in the 6th house does say you don't want to give yourself, a job for the rest of your life. You don't want to add this to your already considerable burdens. So you want to just take something, put it out into the world, see what happens with it without expectation, without requiring the universe to bring you results. Now, when it comes to your relationships, you do have some really intense energy because Venus is making a square to Pluto. And this does mean that you could meet somebody for a long-term relationship. You could meet somebody who shares your philosophical views or your political views or likes the same sports team that you like. You can find somebody who is a match. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from the sun that is part of this new moon and making a trine to that Uranus. So it does say that something is changing at home. And this could be probably with one of your kids or some creative project that you're doing if you don't have kids, or it could be with one of your pets. It is because the energy is originating in your 5th house. So this could be that the kids are going back to school and that's meaning big changes for you, that a creative project of yours is taking off, or that you are maybe going back into the office and your dog is sitting at home now. And so all of these different possibilities are due to that trine to the Uranus. When we look at your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury, which is in your house of work, which very obviously says the more you work, the more money you make. But what's really important, especially with this Virgo new moon, is that you look at the processes you're doing and see what you can streamline. So look at what you can eliminate, what you can delegate, what you can automate. Any of those things could help you shrink the amount of time you're working on something. Now, some of the issue comes in that with the Taurus energy that you have, you get quite comfortable in a process, something that's practical. And so introducing changes, especially technology, can sometimes be something that you put off. But now over the next 2 weeks is the time to try some new systems. And you don't know that they're all going to work. That's not the point. The point is to try some new things so that the universe has some space to bring you some new opportunities. When it comes to your money from traditional investments or from your business or a family business, Mercury is making a sesquiquadrate to Jupiter, and this means that there is the possibility of a gain, but it's a little tenuous and it is definitely outside your comfort zone. So it is where you have to do something more extraordinary or make a really big push to make something happen. So if you don't have the time or energy to do this thing, then just skip it, because this energy will line up in the future and it'll be much easier to grab profits or things like that. But you might know exactly what it is. Perhaps there's an important deadline to reach, or that you have to make a big decision. And so you do have an opportunity here. It's just, it's kind of like, threading a needle by throwing the string. Well, I shouldn't say it that way, because that sounds like it's a long shot. But because it is an aspect, it's not a super long shot. It's just hard to do. So I'll have to come up with a better analogy. When it comes to money derived from career, there's no aspect between Mercury and Neptune, and so it doesn't show that this is a good time to be looking for a raise or expecting a raise. However, there is some really good energy, well, not good, but there's very strong energy when it comes to your career in general. So something is changing, something is happening. And so that could then facilitate asking for a raise later, or certainly getting a new job. But it is connected to both the Uranus, and Jupiter is up there as well, which Jupiter is not helping, but the Uranus is helping. So we do see some possibilities of getting a new job. Maybe it's outside your comfort zone, maybe it's outside your zip code, and so you would have to travel, or you would have to move, or something like that. So there are some strings attached here, but I like that trine to Uranus for getting a new job. And then negotiating for the salary, that gets a little bit more challenging. Now, when it comes to money from risky investments, and these would be things like your Bitcoin or leveraged investments, things like commodities or option straddles and all this other very derivative stuff, you have a really good chart going on. So you have the Sun, Moon, and Mars in that house, and it is pulling energy from the Mercury, which is in your house of work. So this does say that if you put the work in, if you really go through things in a detailed plan, and that includes your decision-making process, planning out, what's going to trigger the time to make a new decision, what is the deadline on things, you actually have very good energy for getting into a good risky investment as well as getting some profits. Okay, Gemini natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of home and family, and it's making the trine to Uranus in your hidden house. So this means that all of the stuff that we're talking about with the Uranus is either a little bit more muted or really comes out of left field for you, so that you're not really knowing what direction these things can happen. And so it could be like, I don't know, that you're going to the grocery store and you actually end up at the casino, like really different energy. Not that I'm advocating you should go to the casino. Let's look at your risky investment house first. But the energy here also could come through as a spiritual awakening, an epiphany, or some intuitive flash that you get that causes you to suddenly swerve or change directions. And of course, this is not just home and family that this is seated in, but also your foundations. And so there could be some sort of insight that rocks your foundations, that causes you to think entirely differently, like just having a realization about something, and it's like the blinders come off and you suddenly can see. Now, where this could be related is that Mars, Pluto, Jupiter configuration is happening in houses of belief and also resources. So the easy energy goes towards resources, which may mean that even if you don't believe that there are resources available for you, there are many more resources than you know. And some of this comes down to changing the questions that you're asking yourself. Changing a question, for example, if you are saying to yourself, why does nothing good happen to me? Why can't I find an opportunity? Why are these things blocked? To how can I gain, access to funds? How can I get someone to lend me money? How can I get people to support my business or my college education or any of those things? So this is about making sure that you don't go towards the difficult aspect, but you go towards the easy one. Now, I know that sounds obvious, like why would we go toward the easy one? But sometimes when we have a trine, it is so easy we don't even notice it. But we do notice the thing that's causing us pain. And that could be that because that Mars in conjunct the Jupiter, that you are feeling that you are blocked because of ideas or a lack of education, or that you have too much education, or that there is something cultural or something spiritual that holds you back. When it comes to relationships, Mercury is making a sesquiquadrate to Jupiter. And so Jupiter, already our bad guy this time, is that planet that we needed to be harmonious for you to have a good time in your relationship. So we're looking at possibly a bumpy couple of weeks, because even though you're doing aspect, which does mean you could meet somebody, you could connect with someone, or you could deepen your relationship with your sweetheart now, the problem is that this is going to take a lot of effort. This is going to take something where you're doing something beyond what you normally do. And that is, stopping doing other things and really focusing on this. And if you don't have the time or energy to do that now, just wait the 2 weeks and wait for this to line up in a better way. But if you are doing something that's quite important, like you were going to go away with your honey, or you are meeting somebody for the first time, just recognize it's going to take a little bit more effort and understanding on your part to make everything click. When it comes to home and family, you have some really great energy going on because we are looking at the sun, moon, and Mars in that house, and you're pulling energy from Mercury in your house of children, creativity, and fun. So we have really good support from family. We have real good opportunities if you are thinking of moving. You have the ability to find a new place. You also show good energy around the resources to do such a thing, although with that Jupiter that we've been talking about, that's in your area of contracts. So you do want to be a little careful, to make sure that you read everything before you sign it, because there could be something, like one little clause where they suddenly say you can't have pets or something like that, where you definitely want to address it before you sign. But in general, what we see is very good energy for home and family, everybody kind of getting along, usual kind of arguments maybe over, sports teams or things like that, but in general, things are very happy. When it comes to your money, you are pulling energy from that moon in the 4th house, making that trine to Uranus, which says that you want to incorporate some spiritual activities to boost your money, because this is a really good aspect for uncovering possibilities. So that would mean doing some feng shui or doing a little money magic, lighting candles or burning incense, or, working with herbs. There are specific herbs that help attract money. All of these things, there's tons and tons of videos on YouTube about these types of things. Also, because the Uranus is in your hidden house, you could also do those subliminal money meditations to put yourself on the track to, seeing money opportunities. And so those are the things that you play at night. And there's like one voice in one ear and one voice in the other ear. And so this helps kind of rewire your brain. Additionally, more conventional things like tapping, hypnosis, self-hypnosis, etc., those things could work at this time. When it comes to money from traditional investments or from your business, the moon's making an inconjunct to Saturn, which is not a great aspect, but at least it's an aspect. So it does say that profits can be made, but you're doing something that you don't really enjoy doing. And so this might be working on the back office of your business or going through all of your investments. You can't just let things ride. You're going to have to pay attention to them and see what sort of adjustments you need to make. And as you make those adjustments, more money comes into your life. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, like getting a raise or negotiating for a better salary or for a new job, you're not doing very strong energy this time. You might want to wait. The moon's not making an aspect with Mars, and there is an energy here that says that you probably need to either work on your technique of asking for more money or negotiating a salary increase, or there is something wrong with the company you work for, that they are going through some financial troubles that they need to heal from, and so it's just not good timing right now. When it comes to risky investments, and these would be the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to make happen, the moon's not making an aspect with Venus, and Venus is in that house, which means you really, really, really want to buy something. You want to get into something. You feel like the whole world is making tons of money in a really easy way, and you're not. But this is not the right time to jump in, because the money is there, yes, but there's no direct way that it's coming into your accounts. And so you're seeing the money pass you by. And that is that other people, like somebody next door to you, could do the same investment and they would make more money than you are. So be really cautious. This energy will line up in the future, so you just have to be patient right now. And also, I know that we're closing in on Mercury retrograde at the end of September, and so you might feel like you're rushing, but you at least want to wait until we look at the full moon chart in 2 weeks to see if the energy's lining up then. Okay, Cancer natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of thinking, planning, which we were talking about at the beginning, also communication, neighbors, siblings, and contracts. And this is all making that trine to the Uranus up in your house of community and technology. So what we are seeing is that this opportunity that is there for you, this big change, is going to come probably either through groups of people that you know or through technology. And if one of the two of these is not your favorite thing, then it might be time to be looking to gather more friends who understand technology more so they can help you. Now, it also does indicate that there is some things that are more external happening, because this is a very external house that this Uranus is in. And so this is stuff that's not in your control. The universe is just opening up, bringing you an opportunity, and you are maybe not seeing exactly how it fits into your plans, but there is some sort of connection. So you do want to explore it. Now, the interesting energy with that configuration that we were talking about before is that the Mars is not making a good aspect to Jupiter in your house of resources. So that means that somebody's not coming to you and just opening their wallet and handing you a wad of cash, but that the Mars is doing the trine to the Pluto in your house of partnerships. So someone's willing to collaborate with you, someone's willing to partner with you, or even mentor you, but they are not going to hand you the keys to the kingdom. And so this is more of an indication that you're seeing the change there, and then go check with other people who know more about this to say, all right, what's my next step? But not looking for them to give you all the answers, but to say, maybe something a little bit more cryptic, or, kind of like setting you on your path like the wise men on the mountain would, but then you have to go in and do the effort. And I also wanted to bring your attention to the fact that this Sun, Moon, Mars is in your house of vehicles, and Mercury will be going retrograde in about a month. And so if you need to do something with your vehicle, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, you're looking at waiting till the end of October. So this is a good time if you're looking to get a new car, or if you are getting some repairs done, or if you just have to update something at DMV, consider doing it over the next few weeks rather than waiting and then with Mercury retrograde, where the line is just going to go out the door. Now, when it comes to relationships, your energy is there, but it is not the most comfortable. So this energy is Moon in conjunct Saturn. And so oftentimes I talk about this as though like you're really hungry for ice cream and you open up your freezer and there's only salmon. And so you have this choice of, you can either have salmon or you can get in the car and go get ice cream, but you cannot make ice cream out of salmon. And so that's the type of energy you're doing with relationships. And that is, if you're willing to make the adjustments, something can happen. But if you don't want to compromise on certain things, if these are, like no deal, I'm definitely not compromising in this area, then just wait the couple of weeks until this energy lines up. Otherwise, this is an opportunity where the universe could bring you somebody who is maybe different than your normal type. Maybe they're somebody who hadn't considered it in the past, and maybe just consider it. Maybe consider, like it's salmon instead of ice cream. So when we are looking at home and family, you're pulling energy from that Venus in your house of home and family. So that is really nice indeed. It is making a trine to Jupiter, which is, Jupiter's kind of our villain this time, but a trine is certainly good energy. And it does say that family members are coming together and supporting each other. But there is also a square to Pluto, and that does indicate that outsiders are not so welcome. And so it might be that the family's quite insular at this time, or maybe you're bringing your date home to meet the family, which I would say not a good time to do that. Just wait until this energy lines up better. But if you are getting together with a family saying, let's start a business together or do something like that, then your energy is very good. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Sun, which is in your house of contracts. So something could come to you via an agreement of some sort. It is making a trine to the Uranus, so unexpected collaborations could happen, or that you join a group and that group promotes you, or that your community, the group you already belong to, come together to really support you. So you have some really great money opportunities coming up. And this extends to when we look at traditional investments for you or money derived from career. The sun is making a trine to that Uranus, and the Uranus is in a money house. And so we like this energy quite a lot. Now, Jupiter is in that house along with Saturn. So it does say that you do have to do the work, that it's not just going to get handed to you, but that's fine because the trine energy says that you will breeze through whatever effort you have to do to make things happen. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, now the energy is not lined up quite as well. There's no aspect going on between the sun and Venus. However, because Uranus is in that house and making a trine to the sun, I am hopeful. So I think that you could get a small raise or maybe a small bonus or some sort of prize. So I think you're making a little more than usual, but it's not very easy to negotiate a long-term financial solution like a big raise or upping you to a new pay grade or things like that. Those are going to be challenging this time. Those will line up in the future, but it's not right now. When it comes to risky investments, and these would be the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, the sun is not making an aspect to Pluto, and the sun is not making an aspect to Mars, so this is not happening. This is warning signs all over the place. And the interesting part of this is because the Pluto is in the 7th house, you may be receiving a literal warning from someone you know, somebody who has some experience in investing or in doing this type of risky business, who says to you, this is not either the right time, or you don't have all of your numbers right, or this is just they recommend not doing it. And so it's really important, since the sun is in the house of communication, to stop and listen and process the information they're telling you, because they could save you a ton of money in the future. Okay, Leo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money. That's fantastic. And it's making a trine to Uranus in your house of career. Also fantastic. So there are some amazing possibilities for you this time. The breakthrough comes when you look at your career and look at it differently. And that can be from a very practical standpoint, where you say to yourself, am I really making an effort here? Am I really learning what I could learn? I mean, it's oftentimes that we can get into a job that we don't really like, where we don't see how this is useful for us. And that is a possibility. The universe doesn't necessarily put us in a place where there's no benefit at all. And so sometimes it's just a matter for us to lean into it, to really do our very, very best, and then see what starts to manifest, whether that be some recognition at the job itself, or that a new opportunity opens up and they spot you because you're doing so well. So this is also because the sun is in your house of money and self-esteem. It is when you try hard and you work at something, you find the benefits because you feel good about yourself, and that alone attracts new opportunities for you. When we look at that configuration that we were talking about in the introduction, it is reiterated because the easy aspect is the Mars trine Pluto, and the Mars in your money house and the Pluto's in your house of work. So that says put the work in to really put yourself to a higher standard, or do the deep work necessary to really come up with good answers. Versus the Mars in conjunct that Jupiter in the 7th house, which is just waiting for your buddy to tell you about a new job, or hoping that a colleague that has moved on to another company is going to call you up and say you could work there, or basically waiting for any other person to bestow on you what it is you're looking for. So everything here says that the power is in your hands, and the power is based on the effort that you're making, that you're operating with your highest intentions of doing the best job that you possibly can, even if the circumstances are not that good. And if you work in the most terrible job ever, then what you're needing to work really hard at is your resume and your interviewing skills so that you can get something else. Now, despite that Jupiter aspect affecting your money, it is really good energy when we look at your house of relationships, because the sun is making a trine to Uranus, which rules those houses, and that means that you could meet somebody who is exciting and interesting, who just opens up your world. That's fantastic. It is also somebody who is a complete departure from a person you've dated in the past. So they are different, maybe in their nationality, in their religion, their philosophy, or they love a different sports team than you ever considered. I don't know. But it is something that there's something about them that's truly different. Now, the fact that Mars makes the inconjunct to Jupiter, that is still a factor. And so there might be some problems with scheduling, or there could be that they don't have enough money to go out and you want to go Dutch, or you are, there's some sort of little thing that could trip you up, but that doesn't stop you from meeting this person and starting this relationship. Just go slow and allow things to unfold as they do. So when we look at your home and family energy, you are pulling energy from the Pluto and the Mars, which are making a trine. So we have some very harmonious energy at home. This could be you're coming together to work on the house, maybe do some renovations, maybe you're doing a business at home. There's a lot of activity and very practical things that you're doing. So it's more than just sitting around watching movies or playing video games. You're doing something practical, but it feels like the whole family is involved and there's lots of harmony. When it comes to your money, you do have an extraordinary house here. It is Sun, Moon, and Mars, which means that if you will look at your money in a very detailed fashion and get yourself a plan, you could do quite well over the next 2 weeks. Your money house is pulling Mercury. Your house of money is pulling energy from that Mercury in your house of planning. So you see how everything is wrapped up in, like, do you have a written budget? What are you using to track your money? Are you aware of your spending? If you will do that, then money opportunities start to appear almost out of nowhere because of that trine to Uranus. So this is your opportunity to put yourself on some sort of system that could, in time, really change the whole trajectory of your wealth accumulation. Now, when it comes to the money that you're accumulating over this 2 weeks, we're not seeing strong accumulation through traditional investments or through your business because Mercury's not making an aspect to Neptune. So we're much more in the planning stage and the shifting, kind of the back office of things and getting ready, like having the bowls where the money will fall into, and so that it doesn't just fall into the streets, and that would be indiscriminate spending or unconscious spending. And so if it's actually going into a bowl, that bowl might be marked, investments or, equipment for the business or something like that. So this says that it's more of a planning time rather than getting the profits. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you are doing some good energy because it is pulling energy from that Mercury. Now, Mercury is making an opposition to Chiron, and Chiron is about healing something. It is about saying what's gone wrong, and this would specifically be in how you're asking for more money, or if you are working for the right company. If you're in a company that will never give you more money, and you want more money, this is not the right company. So, or this is, how you're pitching yourself for the job to get more money. So the opposition to Chiron indicates that you can heal this, whatever issue it is. And that would be, studying how to interview or how to do negotiations or just how to get along with coworkers better so that you get high marks in everything so that you can turn around and then ask for a raise. So over the next couple of weeks, look at what has blocked you and see what you can change, especially in the area of communication, because this could be really beneficial. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things like buying a franchise or buying a business or starting something that takes really long to take off, like a YouTube channel, you are doing only the difficult aspect of Mercury sesquiquadrate Jupiter. And this is, It's extraordinary if it works, but most of the time it doesn't. So this is kind of like the long shot in the house of long shots. And so we have a double long shot. And so you want to be super cautious about what you're putting your money into. Certainly make sure you've done the research. It's going to be quite easy to, find some fast talking salesperson who wants you to sign because there's a time limit or something like that. But just step back and recognize that there's always going to be another opportunity. So if this one is too challenging or if the risk is too great, you might want to pass on it. But if you have a tiny amount that you're willing to lose this amount, then you could put it basically on this roulette wheel that we're seeing this time and see if it's going to hit. It's a kind of a super long shot. Okay, Virgo natives, this is your new moon. It is in Virgo, and it's making that trine to Uranus. So the new moon in your sign not just marks energy for the next 2 weeks, but for the next year. So you are now in beginning energy. That's seed planting energy. That means that as you plant seeds, later over the course of the next 12 months, you could have a big harvest. And so we plant seeds by trying new things, by branching out and doing, related things, or pushing forward on what we already know how to do. So in the case of a job, this might be that you mention to your supervisor that if a position opens up, and even if that position opens up in Alaska, that you would be willing to consider it. Or maybe with your significant other, that you're planting a seed that maybe at some point you want to move, etc. So this is the time to do that for things that are going to manifest over the long term. Now, the Uranus is pulling energy in from your house of spirituality, which means that you can have the spiritual epiphany and have basically the universe itself open the door for you to go through. And that's the sudden unexpected change. So as you are planning this out, as you are mentioning to your supervisor, yes, I'd be interested in taking a new position, the supervisor could come back to you within that 2-week period and say, we have it already. And you were thinking, I'll do it next summer or I'll do it next spring or something like that. But it could come very rapidly. And so you have that opportunity to activate the energy at this time. Now, it also says that this is a time where you need to examine your rules. And that's your personal rules. We're not talking so much about breaking society's rules, but more about what you have decided is a rule for yourself. Now, that is, you're weighing the idea of, what are your standards versus what are your rules. And of course, by rules, in this case, we're talking more about limiting beliefs. Those are those ideas that, that you can only make a certain amount of money, or if you make more money, you have to work really hard, or if you make more money, then people are going to take it from you. The same thing if you get into a relationship, then you exclude all the people you could be in a relationship with, or what if you turn out that you've chosen the wrong person and then you're stuck. These types of beliefs or rules are the things that need to be examined and changed. When we look at that configuration that we were talking about in the introduction, that Mars is also in your sign, making a trine to Pluto in your house of creativity and also risk-taking. And so the easier energy is more to leap rather than do that in conjunct to Jupiter in your house of work. And so if your norm is, and it probably is because you do have Virgo energy, to make a very long detailed plan and then to go over the plan to make sure it's in the right order, and then to go over the plan one more time to make sure that you have all the steps, and then to go over the plan one more time. If you are just stuck in that planning loop, this is the time to make the leap, because the inconjunct to Jupiter, which would just be more planning, is saying this is the hard way to go. That's where you would have to make lots of adjustments. And so this is like when somebody tells me they're going to write, but they struggle with writing, I tell them to do the first draft without editing. That's kind of what we're looking for here, is if you have a plan for something, your tendency or inclination is to go back over the plan and over the plan and over the plan. But this is a time to take your first draft and try it. Now, when it comes to relationships, Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune, and so the timing is a little bit off. And part of that is we're seeing most of the planets below the horizon, which means you're not easy to be seen. Additionally, there's more energy here for you working on yourself than working on somebody else. And so this is a time where you actually might want to take a little break from a relationship and step back. Or, if your sweetheart is very understanding, you could just say, hey, I need some me time. And you can go off and do whatever. But if you're looking to meet someone during this time, the energy is not really lining up. And so it's going to be challenging. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Jupiter, which is in your house of routines and habits, but it's making an inconjunct to the Mars that we've been talking about so much. And so that does say that if you're going to make changes at home, somebody is going to revolt. Or if other people are changing up things for you, then you are the one who are, saying, hey, I'm not going to do it this way. So there is some contentious energy here where you're going to have to be understanding of each other. It's possible that, like somebody in the family's gone minimalist, but everybody else is maximalists, or that somebody does want to move, but the rest of the family doesn't. So there's some difficult energy where compromising or talking things through can really help, but in general, not a lot of forward movement. Not a lot of forward movement is happening over these next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus in your house of money, which in itself is good. However, this Venus is making a square to Pluto and a trine to Jupiter. And so this is a Venus that wants to buy something. This Venus is very intent on having something, and possibly no matter the cost. And you might even go so far as to justify this as it's for your work or your daily life or for your health or something like that. So you do want to be careful, because you absolutely have the possibility of bringing in more money, but the money seems to be flowing right out again, and perhaps more is flowing out than is flowing in. So the fact that Venus is here in that house of money, again, it's beneficial, but I'm a little concerned with the aspects that it's making, because those aspects are about obsession, compulsion, and impulse buying. When it comes to money derived from career or traditional investments, things like stocks or bonds, buying a utility or something like that, Venus is making a semi-sextile to Mars. This is not a very strong aspect. Now, I do believe that information is coming to you because the ruler of your house of investments is something you own. It's the Mars in Virgo. But the semi-sextile says that the information does not agree with your preconceived notions, and so you're being challenged. And that is that when you believe, say, a stock's going to go up, and then you hear maybe one person say, oh no, we're looking at a bear market, or maybe one institution downgraded that stock, and now you have to redo everything. There's not a desire to redo it. There's not a desire to take that new information and apply it. But that's, of course, what you need to do. So the semi-sextile says that you can make more money than usual, but it's just a little bit, and it's usually because you have reevaluated something. When it comes to money derived from career, you are not doing an aspect between Venus and Moon, so getting more money from your job is quite difficult. And this includes even if you work more hours, because the Mars is making the inconjunct to that Jupiter. It says even if you put in extra time and effort, you're not going to make more money from this particular job over the next 2 weeks. So if you are leaning in and doing something better and really focusing your energies, then you are doing it for your own personal growth, or you're doing it so that you can open up new opportunities for yourself. But it's not so easy to just say, hey, I did this today, give me more money today. And when it comes to risky investments, Venus is not making an aspect to Saturn. So again, I have to caution you, because even if the money is there, it's not flowing to you directly. And so that you might see a lot of your friends making money in a particular investment, but for some reason the luck for you isn't there. Well, for some reason there's no aspect. So it's like the money's there, but it can't find its way to your account. So that means be super cautious. If you are already in risky investments, it may not be the right time to sell. It is also probably not the right time to buy. And so you just want to be careful. Okay, Libra natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your hidden house, the house where you work behind the scenes, where you activate spiritual opportunities, where you hone your intuition, where you work with your shadow self, and where you find your hidden talents. And it's making the trine to the Uranus in your house of resources. So this is a time where, especially over the next 2 weeks, you want to really lean in and get projects done. You want to really focus by shutting out distractions and look at either, things that you have to do for work or your side business, or work on yourself. And that could be through means like tapping or hypnosis, or through journaling, through traditional therapy, seeing your astrologer, things like that, so that you can get rid of blocks, especially subconscious blocks, and biases and things like that. Because the trine to the Uranus says that as you let go of something, new resources, I almost said racehorses. As you do, new resources come in, and this means that there are so many opportunities that you can have if you will just take the moment and look within. Now, the other thing about this new moon period is that this is a time where things can go viral, and that means that they leave your hands and you no longer have control of what they do. So if you are working on social media, posting there, even socially, if you're doing anything in the public, use good judgment, because if you are just, retweeting something that somebody else said, you need to look at, what the origins were, the basis for it. You need to be ready to stand up and defend it, because this is the energy where, something that you release into the world could get really, really big, which can be fantastic, or can be a real problem for you if it was something that you didn't really pay attention to as you let it go. So this is really good for doing things like launching a book or a creative project or a recording of yours, doing really thought out memes or posts is really good. Doing marketing for your business is excellent. Also, putting wishes out into the universe, just for what you want. A love relationship, good family relationships, actual material goods. You can do all of that at this time. Now, when we look at that configuration with Mars, we are looking at the easy energy going down towards foundations and home and family and those traditions of the things that you learned in your upbringing, and the difficult energy going towards taking risks and doing things just out of pleasure. And so there is more of an energy, a positive energy, when you are doing things to help your family, to carry on the family name, or where you're doing things that you really know to be true, that are part of you personally. Now, we're going to pull in the Venus at this time because Venus is your planet ruler. Now, Venus I was feeling was just outside of this configuration by just a smidge, but we have to talk about it here because you being a Libra pull that energy in. And so we almost have a little treasure chest, but it is the oddest shaped little treasure chest we've ever seen. And so as we try to open the lid to get the treasure, it doesn't open very easily. We might have to use some effort to get this thing open to gather the treasure. And that means that there is definitely effort that needs to be expended to make something positive happen over this 2-week period. You cannot just cruise, and I know that's hard to tell you because, you know, Venus is in your own sign of Libra in the first house. It is a time where you do probably say, you know, gosh, I really need a break. I really need a day off here, or a week off, or 2 weeks off. But right now, if you can put in the effort, you'll be able to open this treasure chest and gain something of great value. And we're not just talking monetarily. It could be removing a block, maybe a block you've had for a long, long time, and removing that permanently and opening up so many opportunities for yourself. When it comes to relationships, Venus is making only a semi-sextile to Mars, and Mars is hidden. And so there is an energy here that says a relationship is possible if you want to meet somebody new or something like that, but it is going to take some effort. The energy's there, like the aspects there, but it's just not lined up in a very pleasant or easy way. So that means that, you know, the person might disappear on you, or you seem to disappear from that other person. And so that can bring some contentious issues that have to be worked out. But you also might just say, you know what, this energy is going to line up better in the future, so I'm just going to wait. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from that Saturn in your house of children, creativity, and fun. Saturn is not a planet we've been talking about during this 2-week period, and so the energy for you is pretty straightforward. It's, you know, get the kids ready to go to school, get yourself back to school, look at what you can do as a family to enjoy the last bits of summer, and, you know, just being kind to yourself, but still, as you do, making sure that you're getting all of your obligations and responsibilities done. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money, of course, from that Pluto that we talk about every time, but also Mars in your house of spirituality. And this means that you can activate it by doing a little bit of money magic. And so this could be prayer, meditation, affirmations, visualization, or you can go the route of, you know, like doing feng shui to get a little lucky money cat or a lucky money frog, or putting some coins over your front door, or sprinkling some cinnamon or other herbs on your welcome mat. Things like this that seem to not have a connection to making money, but because you are in the moment, you are doing a physical action to manifest something. It sends a very clear message to the universe that this is something that you want. Now, sometimes people will have an easier time manifesting items or objects versus actual cash. So if you've tried to manifest cash in the past, maybe look for, you know, manifesting a car instead, or start something smaller and say, I want to manifest a sweater, you know, or a new pair of hiking boots or something like that. So manifesting objects builds your confidence, and then in the future, you'll be able to manifest cash. Now, when it comes to your traditional investments like stocks or bonds, or money that comes from your business, and this would include more passive income sources like affiliate marketing or residuals or royalties or things like that. Venus is making a trine to that Pluto, and so you're doing excellent energy for accumulation of extra money this time. So that means that more money can flow into your accounts and that you can have a very profitable 2 weeks. When it comes to money derived from career, however, the energy is not lining up. Pluto and Mars are not making an aspect to the sun, and the sun is hidden in the 12th house, and so you are not seen. And so it is that you're working behind the scenes, but maybe the project's not completed over this next 2 weeks, or that, their boss is away and you can't get a hold of them. So there's energy here that says just wait. If you're going to be negotiating for a raise, if you can wait at all, that would be wonderful. But if you are looking for a new job, I think I said that backwards. Let me try again. So it says for the next 2 weeks, just wait, especially if you are trying to ask for a raise. If you are trying to negotiate a salary for getting a new job, maybe look at negotiating for some other perks. Something like stock, or maybe more flexible schedule or additional vacation time in lieu of more salary. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, effort, or money to get going, Pluto is not making an aspect to Uranus. I'm going to tell you that for a long time because these are very slow-moving planets. So we always look to the co-ruler, which is Mars, to see what aspects it's doing. And Mars is making a sesquiquadrate to Saturn, the co-ruler of your house of money from risky investments. And a sesquiquadrate is a long shot. It is like when it happens, it's amazing. It can be like a lottery win, but the odds to win the lottery are astronomically not in your favor. And so that if you are risking, $2 to buy a lottery ticket, that's like you can probably live without that $2. You can skip getting an extra taco and then you buy the lottery ticket, and that could be worth that super risky investment. But if you are thinking about putting a lot of money on the line, this is not a good enough aspect to do that with. So you would certainly want to wait for a stronger aspect, something that is going to bring the profits to you. But right now, if you have extra money that you don't mind losing, you can put that money on the long shot. Okay, Scorpio natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of technology, the future, and friendships. And it's doing a trine to that Uranus in your house of partnerships and relationships. So the energy here for rebellion here is very strong because the sun and moon are in your house of rebellion, of change and all of that. And so I think that this indicates that you are going to get some sort of breakthrough idea, and then you have somebody who can come into your life who can guide you through. And that could be somebody that you know well, who's already been down that path, or a mentor or a collaborator or an influencer, or somebody's going to help you. Now, when we also look at the configuration that we were talking about at the in the intro, we see the Mars is making a harmonious aspect to the Pluto in your house of ideas. So here's the planning, and as you start to plan, new ideas come in, new information comes in, answers to your questions happen. And then the inconjunct, the difficult aspect, goes right to your house of family. So as you tell your family, okay, I have a business idea and I'm moving to Alaska and, I'm changing my name or whatever you're going to do, your family's not so thrilled about it because for some reason your plans are causing them to adjust, or at least they are saying that, they're going to have to make adjustments for you. And so this is where the challenges are. If you are expecting your family to go along with everything you said, it's going to be challenging. You may have to introduce these things to them very slowly, or you may have to make some compromises. And so perhaps that is that you'll move to Alaska later, or that you will let them know that you're not going to move to the state of Alaska, but just the town of Alaska that happens to be in your state, or something like that. So this is really positive energy for getting the ideas, having the breakthroughs, and having the resources needed to do this. But just don't expect that everybody's going to be as excited as you are. When it comes to relationships, you are doing some really good energy because Venus is making a square to Pluto. Now, the Venus is just rising in your chart, which means you can't see it, but other people can. And so if you post your profile, it's something that like you would be highlighted in some way. You would be seen by more people, or someone who has noticed you before runs into you again, and you don't remember them, but they remember you. And so it's very easy for you to meet somebody if you are willing to do that. If you say, I do want to meet somebody. Now, when it comes to strengthening your relationship, your existing relationship, then it's all about communication and looking at things that you might be doing unconsciously or that they're doing unconsciously that are tripping you guys up. And so this might be that, you know, they're a very positive person to everybody else, but they feel much more relaxed around you. And so then they tell you all their fears and, you know, all their anger and all of that, and you're feeling like you're getting dumped on. And so they may not be conscious that they're doing that. That's just a shift of communication, just you know, talking about it so they can be aware of it. And then you in turn become aware of things you might be doing. So good relationship energy, you know, not like the happy, you know, go lucky type, but definitely good for finding somebody, making connections, and finding somebody who's truly could be significant in your life. So when it comes to home and family, you have a full house, as you usually do, with that Saturn and Jupiter there. It's pulling energy from that Uranus, which is making a trine to the new moon. So with all that I said before about how you can be having this breakthrough idea or making a huge change in your life, and your family's kind of going, oh my gosh, is this a good idea? You can have that discussion with them and say, you know, I've planned this out. I've really thought about this. I didn't think it would happen this soon, but now it is. And you will get some members of your family who will understand. So in general, I like this energy that I'm seeing. I think that there might be somebody in the family that you have to pull aside and explain to them in more detail what you're doing if you're wanting their approval or support. If that's not so important to you, then you just say, you know, I'll do me, you do you, and we'll be fine. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Jupiter, which is the planet that is making the semi-sextile to Pluto and that in conjunct to Mars. So this Jupiter is under a lot of pressure, and this type of pressure is asking you to make some sort of change. So that is that however the status quo is, however you've done this in the past, you need to see if externals are changing, or if the needs of your family are changing, or if there is just something that you could change that would make you a whole bunch more money. So this is something, and maybe you are actually discussing this with your family because it's in the 4th house, but you also are looking at the patterns that you grew up with and seeing if you thought you were doing something different than your upbringing, but it turns out you're doing exactly what your parents did, exactly what your grandparents did, or something like that. So you want to see where you can adjust. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money derived from your business, and that would also be passive income sources, the Mercury is making a sesquiquadrate to that Jupiter, and Mercury is buried in your 12th house. And so this is kind of like a long shot. You don't have obvious money coming to you. And that is, if you're thinking about investing in something that you think is really solid, then the timing might not be correct, or that it's not as solid as you think. It's also, though, that if you're talking about a business, then you do want to reach out to somebody who, you know, like a potential client or customer you don't think you would get. Maybe you think that they are solidly with your competitor, but you don't know. Maybe they just had a fight with them and they are looking for a new supplier. So this is taking a chance, but not so much with large sums of money, but more taking a personal risk to ask for the sale or ask for the opportunity, or even to go to somebody to say, I need investment advice, when maybe they are not the person you normally ask. So all of that boils down to, I think you're going to make a little bit more money than usual over this next 2 weeks, but not a whole bunch, just because it does show to be a long shot. We have some similar energy when it comes to money derived from career, except your money derived from career house is amazing. It has the sun, moon, and Mars there, which is probably the best set of planets you're going to get for the rest of the year. So this says that even though this is a long shot, that's more what you're going to hear that people say back to you. So you ask for the raise, they say, oh, well, I will have to ask my supervisor, and it's a long shot. And you say, let me know what supporting materials you need to show them that I deserve this. You say, yes, please go ask, because that's when this can come through. And it can come through in a really extraordinary way where they do say yes to, this extra money, but they also give you a better title or a better shift or, something that's really beneficial. So I really like this energy for asking, but it is necessary for you to ask. Now, the ruler of this house is in your 12th house, and so you're not really seen right now, and that is that you're going to have to make the appointment with a supervisor, sit down with them, really have the discussion, not just doing this discussion in a hidden way, like through text or email. That's not going to work. This really needs to be a face-to-face, so at least on Zoom, where you can see each other. When it comes to risky investments, Jupiter is making a semi-sextile to the Neptune, and so there is an opportunity here. It's a little bit outside of your comfort zone. There's something slightly irritating about it. Maybe they've handed you a big stack of paperwork to go through. Maybe there's some sort of extra licensing you have to do for a business, or that you want to buy a piece of property, but there is some sort of lien on the property. There's something extra and irritating that you have to do, but once you clear that hurdle, it should be going pretty well. So I like this energy. The energy in general here has been kind of tough for you over these last few months. So this is better energy than you have been doing. So I'm liking that. It still, of course, always pays to be cautious. Okay, Sagittarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon right at the top of your chart in your house of career, and it's making a trine to that Uranus in your house of work. And so there is extraordinary opportunities this time for you to get a new job, to get a promotion, to elevate yourself in your career somehow. So that could also be receiving some sort of recognition for a good job done, or, that somebody writes an article about you, or you're on some great podcast or something like that. So there is some really good energy for you, especially where you want to be seen. Now, when it comes to that configuration that we were talking about in the introduction, Mars is making a very nice aspect to Pluto, which is in your house of money, but it is not making a great aspect to Jupiter in your house of communication. And so that's where you could get tripped up, where someone says something to you that, maybe they didn't say it correctly, or you were interpreting it in a certain way, and you stop yourself from moving forward. It is that they give you a hint that you shouldn't ask for a raise, but you ask anyway, and they say, okay, but it is, if you pay attention to the hint, you wouldn't have asked, and therefore you wouldn't have gotten it. So it's always easier to see the painful, hard thing than it is the super easy thing. So in this case, watch out for your communication, or see if you're reading something into something that they said. Let me try that sentence again. So be aware if you are interpreting something they said in a negative way, perhaps, run it by a friend to see if they think that it's that way, or just say, okay, they said something that is trying to dissuade me. I can still ask because I think you could get a yes. When it comes to relationships, you have some really interesting energy because the Mercury is doing a sesquiquadrate with Jupiter. That's not an aspect that I say very often, and is really hard to say 3 times fast. It is kind of the long shot aspect, in that it's hard to make it happen, but when it does, it's extraordinary. And so this is the the kind of thing where if you are looking for love, that you are going through not just a few people to try to find, your next relationship, but you're going through a lot, maybe hundreds of people. You might be on 2, 3, 4 services or platforms to find this person. You are taking an extraordinary effort, and when you do, something extraordinary can happen. This is also about maybe going out with somebody who you normally wouldn't think is your type, but your friends say, oh yeah, this could be the one. You should go out with them. So if somebody that you love and trust says, maybe consider it, because by taking that extra risk, by basically betting on that long shot, you could really get something. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Neptune as well as that Jupiter. Neptune's not doing much in this chart, so we haven't really talked about Neptune, but Jupiter is. And so the Jupiter is making a trine to Venus and an inconjunct to Mars. And so it is possible that people are saying that they're going to do something, but they don't actually do it. And that, for some reason, is more irritating to you than usual. And so I shouldn't be surprised about that. You're Sagittarius. You want people to be honest. And so you expect people to, when they say something, to follow through. But it's really challenging for them to do that at this time because of that inconjunct. So it is to be patient with family members, and this would include also, people who don't necessarily live in the house with you, such as siblings who, have their own place, or cousins, or any of those extended family members. If somebody says to you, gives you a promise with all intention to make it happen, just realize they may not be able to follow through on it because of this inconjunct. So when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Saturn, which is also a planet we haven't mentioned a lot in this talk because it's not figuring very prominently. Now, the one aspect that it's doing, which is rather hidden, is Mars is making a sesquiquadrate to that Saturn. So that's twice I've mentioned sesquiquadrate in just one reading. That's amazing. So again, this is that long shot. And this says that money is a possibility when you put yourself out there, but it's not a given. And that means, if you are tracking some marketing you're doing, you're not going to see that obvious ROI. It's just going out there, but if you do it, then somebody from left field comes in and says, oh, now I want you to, be our supplier, or I want to be your customer, or something like that. So some big opportunity can come from what seems to be a disconnected action that you take. So, go ahead and do the things that you want to do, put yourself out there in the world, be seen, and then you might see an opportunity come in that is seemingly unrelated, but comes in around the same time. When it comes to traditional investments or money derived from career, as well as passive income sources like royalties or affiliate marketing or things like that, the moon is making an inconjunct to Saturn, which is not a comfortable aspect, but it is an aspect. So it means that if you're willing to do the uncomfortable things, you can gain more money than usual from these sources. And that might mean doing more research, especially researching, new investments, or actually researching decision-making in general, when to hold, when to sell, or looking at, researching how to put in sell stops or trailing sell stops, which I know not every brokerage does, but if your brokerage happens to do that, then that could be a nice thing to add to your strategy. Or for your business, it might be, updating your website, doing the back office, maybe looking at whoever's doing your social media and asking yourself if they're really effective. Because, sometimes if somebody else is doing your social media, they don't bring the heart and soul of your business into those posts, and so then your posts read kind of flat. So all of this is talking about making an adjustment, and when you do, more money flows in. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you have a good house because Mercury and Venus are there, but Venus is not making an aspect to Saturn. So it feels like someone could make you a promise of getting more money, but they are not following through, or it's coming way outside of this 2-week period. So that might be that they're saying, yes, you can have a raise, it'll be good in November or something like that. So I think it's okay to ask, and certainly good to negotiate a salary if you are getting a new job, but you're not seeming to reap in the profits in this 2-week period. And finally, when we look at risky investments, and these are the things that are unusual or highly leveraged, things that you would have to explain to your grandpa what they are. Saturn is making that sesquiquadrate to Mars, and so you are doing that long shot energy that we were talking about before. And that is, if this investment is something that is a small investment on your part, like, a $2 for a lottery ticket is an example of a tiny investment, and the lottery has a huge odds, like, it's astronomical odds. That's a true long shot. And so, if the $2 that you would put down on the lottery ticket is something that you would just buy a candy bar for, skip the candy bar and buy the ticket. That's great. You would not want to gamble with this sort of energy on something where you're putting hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into it, or even thousands of dollars, because it's too much of a long shot. Now, and again, that is like, if your long shot is you're sending out an email to an influencer to see if they will, contact you and collaborate. That's 10 minutes of your time, and, off it goes. But if you are, trying to, like, if you're doing something at great effort and trying to decide, like you're writing a screenplay and you've spent a lot of time in it, and you think, if I get one rejection, I'm done, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is not the time to do that. It's not the time to take something you've put a lot of time and effort into and put it on the line. So again, like, send out one email to an agent or to a producer and say, would you look at my screenplay, and do that long shot that way. Okay, Capricorn natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of ideas, adventure, travel, legal matters, education, as well as the kind of philosophy that you have for yourself. And it's making a trine to that Uranus in your house of risk-taking. So this is you looking at your ideas, the ideas you have for yourself, and seeing if you are living too small and if you should shake things up a little bit. If you have always said, you want to live in a different country at some point, but you don't even have a valid passport, it's time to update the passport. It's time to start planning that, because as you update the passport, you're there in line with some guy that you knew in high school, and that guy has a house in Spain and he wants to go there and he'll take you with him. Like, stuff like that can happen with this type of aspect. But if you didn't get the passport renewed, you wouldn't have seen the guy, etc. So this is, start to implement your plan for whatever bigger thing it is. And maybe that is about getting your education, or, maybe it is to do something with writing, teaching, publishing, that sort of thing. All of those things, you want to look at how can you start to take those steps so that Uranus can be activated and bring in some opportunities. Now, when we look at the configuration with Mars, what we see is that Mars is making a happy aspect to that Pluto in your house of confidence, which says that you can be confident, you can move forward. And it's making a difficult aspect to Jupiter in your house of money. And that means don't spend the money for this. So it's not that you buy all the tickets and buy a house in Spain and all of that. You don't spend the money that way, but you do find the person who says, yes, you can come and stay with me in Spain, and that way you try it out. So this is more believing in yourself and manifesting things rather than opening up your wallet and paying for it, which technically is the easy way, but it's the easy way, but it's not the easy way because you're doing it in conjunct. So the easy way the way that is best. I shouldn't use the word easy. It's a trine. So it's the better way to go is to have confidence in yourself and your ability to manifest, and not do I'll just buy it, I'll just do it all myself, and so I won't ask anybody to help me. And then you're doing that inconjunct. When it comes to relationships, Saturn is making an inconjunct to that moon, which means that, yes, there is an opportunity to meet somebody new or to strengthen your relationship, but it is going to take some adjustments on either side. So that means that you might meet somebody who's very, very interesting, but they live outside your zip code, or that you and your sweetheart are trying to really work together and strengthen the relationship, but your schedules are not lining up, and so you're not seeing each other very often. And so this is just a matter of adjusting, of not holding on to disappointment, oh, we were going to have our date night and now you can't, and you always do this. Instead of that, say, okay, all right, so now I have the night off and we'll go out on Saturday. And so just being flexible is helpful now. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Mars, which is making that trine to Pluto and the inconjunct to Jupiter. Now, that means that you might be thinking to purchase something for the home, or you're actually buying a home itself, and you're going to have to make some sort of adjustment. So that could mean that what you're trying to buy gets bought out from under you, and I would say then good riddance, let it go. So because something better will come. Or it could be that you are thinking to purchase something and it arrives dented or damaged in some way, and then it has to be sent back. And I know that the timing on this is terrible because Mercury is going to go retrograde at the end of September, and so you might be trying to get a new washer dryer or get some other appliance installed before that happens. But this energy is going to be bumpy. Now, again, inconjuncts are survivable. It is that energy, and I've said this on this channel a couple of times, but the inconjunct energy is like being really hungry for ice cream, opening up the freezer, and all you have is salmon. So you either get to eat the salmon, or you get to get in the car and go get ice cream. You cannot make ice cream out of salmon. And so that's the inconjunct energy. You just have to make an adjustment. And so that adjustment, of course, can be huge, like, oh, I don't have a washer dryer and then I have to go to the laundromat or something like that. Or it can be really small. Oh, there's a little nick. Can you take some money off of this? And then they do, and everybody's happy. So that the level of how intense this is will be based on how you feel about it. If you think this is, that it has to be perfect, or maybe the dent's in the front and you're going to hate it for the rest of your life, then you are going to want to make a bigger adjustment than if the dent was on the side and nobody's going to see it anyway. So when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Uranus in your house of risky investments, which we'll talk about in a moment, and it's making a trine to this new moon. So you have some of the best energy over the next 2 weeks for making more money. That is that different sources of income can be revealed. You may not be able to get these sources up and running in 2 weeks, but you can see what they are and how to do them and have that kind of clear path ahead. So this is a time where you want to even keep a notebook with you or keep your phone on notes so you can type in whatever it is that's coming to you, different ideas. Other people might give you these ideas, the universe might give you ideas, but you can really gain financially over this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or from your own business or a family business, the sun's not making an aspect to Uranus. What did I say? Let's try that again. When it comes to traditional investments, that's like stocks and bonds and things that your grandma knew about. And also, though, money from a family business or your own business, the sun is making a trine to Uranus. And so you have a really good opportunity to make more money than usual. That is not just sources of money, but actually customers paying you on time or new customers coming in, that investments go up, that that you're able to cash out of an investment and really profit. So you have some really good energy over this next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, we don't see an aspect between Pluto and Uranus. However, the co-rulers, Saturn and Mars, are doing a sesquiquadrate. Now, a sesquiquadrate is a bit of a long shot because it's basically a square plus a trine. And so the square energy can be combative, it can be aggressive, etc. And then the trine is really easy. And so you have like a little hump and then things work out. And I say it's a long shot because most of the time people don't want to do it. It's also not, it's considered a minor aspect, and so it's not as obvious. And so there might be like a tiny little sliver of a window over the next 2 weeks where it just lines up perfectly where your boss says, you know, if you ever want more money, like, and then if you're ready, you can say, yes, I do want more money, or I do want this extra job, or yes, I want the transfer. And the same thing also, if a friend comes to you and says, hey, I heard there's a job opening over at this company, and if your resume is already ready, you have it queued up, it's 2 seconds and you push the button. That's how you can use this energy. But if you come back later, no, then you have this big hill to climb and it's not going to work. So the focus is to, what do they say? Strike when the iron is hot. That's in case you're doing blacksmithing, that's where that's from. You know, there's no reason to strike while the iron is cold because you won't be able to form it into what you want. Now, when it comes to risky investments, the energy is a little bit off because there is no aspect going on between Uranus and Venus. However, that Uranus is making a trine to the Sun in your house of contracts. So I think that this energy suggests that it would be a good idea to get the contract, start reading it over, start that negotiation. I think you could do really well in the negotiations with this energy. But for the actual signing, you may want to wait. And of course, if you are signing something very big, like buying a business or a franchise or something like that, I hope you will check in with your astrologer so that they can give you a good signing time, because the time you sign creates a chart for your experience of owning that business. And it's the same thing for doing risky investments. If you have been doing risky investments all along, well, then your chart is in the past. But if this is the first time you're going to invest in something, check with your astrologer and get a good chart for the commencement of this activity. And that could facilitate profits in the future. Okay, Aquarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of resources, and it's making a trine to Uranus in your house of home and family. So very good energy this time. This basically says that if you have a plan, or if you've done the application or things like that, a lot of what you need in the way of outside help can come to you and your family. And so that means that you could even help a sibling fill out a loan application, help your kid get more scholarships or funding or lower interest rates or things like that. So you have a lot of opportunities, and it starts with the plan, and you start to implement the plan, and then big opportunities open up. Now, we've also been talking about this configuration with that Mars, and it is making the trine to the Pluto, which is actually in your house of spirituality. It's rising in your chart, so it's not so noticeable to you, but it is noticeable to the universe. So that's the positive energy. And then the negative energy, that inconjunct, is actually in your house of confidence, in your own sign of Aquarius. And so this is a warning to not be overconfident and certainly not be arrogant about the process, but instead recognize you are co-creating with the universe. And so if something is blocked, the universe is protecting you. It's not that the universe is taking something away, that the universe is saying, oh, don't go this direction. And so you have to stop and then say, all right, then what direction should I go? And look at other avenues for yourself. So sometimes when we are doing two aspects like this, we ignore the positive one and we go with the hard one because it's so noticeable. And in this case, that would be that inconjunct to Jupiter, which says, well, I don't care if there's obstacles, I'm going to push through. Pushing through is the thing to do. Well, not this time. Pushing through is not the thing to do. It is actually to go with the flow. And if the flow takes you to, request a credit line with a different bank, if it is to look at a different type of investment, if it's looking at a different source of income, that's the thing to do this time. When it comes to relationships, you have really good energy because the sun is making a trine to Uranus. And so you have an opportunity to meet somebody, especially for an intimate relationship, because the sun is in your house of intimacy and sex and all of that. So if you are looking for especially somebody who you have great physical chemistry with, now is the time to do that. If you're already in a love relationship, you might find that you're intimate more often during this period because there is heightened energy in that area. When it comes to your home and family, you're pulling energy from that Venus that's right at the top of your chart. So it's possible that your family is being noticed for some reason, that either in the neighborhood or just in general, like one of you in the family is getting written up in the local paper or is on a podcast or something like that. This Venus is making a square to Pluto and a trine to Jupiter. And so the energy here is that you might feel quite obsessed about getting something done within the home, or taking the family on a vacation, or, maybe there's some issues with some extended family. So there's some positive, like there's some sweet and sour energy going on here. And so you want to see if you can concentrate on the sweet part, which is, your natural ability to, let things run off of you. Don't take things personally. Allow yourself to be detached, versus the square here that we could see that could be quite obsessed, controlling, manipulative, etc. And yes, it could be the other person doing all that to you, but you are the Aquarius. So you just say, okay, now I know this about you, and then you let it go. So when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Neptune, which we haven't talked about because it's not figuring very strongly in this chart, and the Jupiter, which we have talked a lot about. Now, the Jupiter, of course, is making the inconjunct to Mars, which says that money comes when you do the uncomfortable thing, when you get outside of your comfort zone. And so if you don't normally like to check in with banks to see if you can get lower interest rate, if you don't like to ask people for help in general, that's the thing you need to do. You need to actually look at whatever is outside of your comfort zone, whether it's asking for the sale or asking for help or asking advice. That's the thing to do. When it comes to money that's from a traditional investment or from your business or family business, one, you have an extraordinary house. That's fantastic. It's Sun, Moon, Mars. So you have some really good energy there. But the second part is that Mercury is making a sesquiquadrate to Jupiter, which means that I see you making more money. That's going to happen. But the thing is, if you want to make a lot more money, you have to go for the long shot. And by long shot, I mean making a small investment to maybe gain something quite large. And so this would be maybe taking 10 minutes a day and direct messaging influencers on some platform to see if there is a connection that you can make. And when I say that, I know, again, that sounds like a crazy long shot. How many people do that? But what you're actually doing is you are looking for the person with whom you have chart connections with. Because if you have a chart connection, then some sort of collaboration could happen. And so you don't know ahead of time if they have a chart connection with you, and so therefore you reach out to them. Now, everybody who has a chart connection with you doesn't necessarily become somebody you can work with, because everybody does still have free will and they could be really busy or something like that. So, but going back to the long shot part of this, that is to take a little bit of time, energy, or a tiny bit of money and put it towards something that could give you the bigger win, but the odds, the odds are high. They're difficult. And I guess that was a long way of saying that over the next 2 weeks, I expect you to make more money, but this is a great time to go for the big win. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, Jupiter is making a semi-sextile to Neptune, so this is an opportunity to go ask for more money. It is something where you'll have to watch the timing a little bit, because it's likely that you're going to ask at just kind of the wrong time. But so it would be better to say to your supervisor, like, give them a heads up, say, I want to talk to you about getting more money or a path to getting a promotion. When can we chat? And so then there's a momentary feeling of discomfort, and then you can both be prepared to go into the meeting rather than trying to spring this on them while they're thinking, they have to go catch a train or something like that. So this energy is, if you can make some slight adjustment and be tiny bit out of your comfort zone, you could gain more money. And finally, when we look at your house of risky investments, Mercury is not making an aspect to Neptune, but it is making that sesquiquadrate to Jupiter. And so again, we're seeing the long shot, and that's like, if you are going to, skip getting a latte and take that money and put it towards lottery tickets, that's a kind of a long shot, because it's astronomical odds against that you're going to win anything, but it's such a small investment. And so this would be, from a Bitcoin standpoint, this would be putting in, like just a tiny bit of extra money. You have $50 and you were either going to blow that on, drinks out, or you put it towards Bitcoin, it's something like that, where you're taking a very small investment and putting it towards a long shot. I think of this also, though, a better use for this energy is doing the long shot where you are sending your screenplay to somebody who they may not ever even open it, but you send it to them and you send it at a good time, using help with the help of your astrologer, or you are sending it with a little message, something cute, or like you wrap it in gift wrap or something, so that I don't know why you're sending it as a paper copy, but you're doing something that can get a little bit of notice, but it is a long shot. So I like that there's an aspect. An aspect does mean that profits can come to you, but I think the better use for this is to go for the big win. Okay, Pisces natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of partnerships and relationships. Also welcoming people of all kinds into your life, acquaintances, colleagues. Everybody comes in through your 7th house, and that's where this new moon is. Now, this new moon is making that trine to Uranus in your house of communication. So that is, the more you communicate, the more people you meet. And so, just saying, I want to meet more people is going to activate this. And that can be, to bring in potential business partners or a love relationship. So all of these things are looking pretty good. Now, of course, in the intro, we were talking about this configuration, and that is that Mars in your 7th house doing 2 aspects. First, it's making that easy trine to the Pluto in your house of friendships. And that could be, bringing people into your life through your friends, like meeting your friends of your friends, versus that inconjunct, which is sitting in your 12th house of loneliness and feeling despondent. And that is, sitting all alone in the dark thinking, wow, nobody likes me. And that is the energy that, because it's uncomfortable, is something that's very easy to feel. It's not easy to feel this energy of, oh my gosh, if I just ask my friend if we could get together, then suddenly I have 10 opportunities to get together. So this is getting out of your own way, in a sense. Now, I do understand you are Pisces and you need some alone time, but sometimes that alone time can extend too long, and that then gives you the idea that you're isolated and that nobody is paying any attention to you. So that's where you want to shift it and say, okay, I'm going to call some friends and cheer them up, and you will find that you are then being cheered up by them. So as I mentioned, relationship energy is quite good with the Sun, Moon, and Mars in that house. Mercury is not making an aspect to Neptune, though, this time, and so it does mean that the timing is going to take a little bit longer than the 2 weeks. So you can meet somebody, but you might not get together many times over the 2 weeks, or even at all. Maybe you're just texting each other. So it's also that, you know, your sweetheart might really appreciate the fact that you are pitching in more or talking more or really connecting, but they're super busy right now, and so they can't sit down and really have a discussion with you of, you know, how much they appreciate that, or, you know, how the relationship is getting better. So be patient with this energy. It's positive energy, but it's not exactly lined up for this 2-week period. So there is some similar energy going on with home and family because you are pulling energy from that Mercury, and so the Mercury is not making an aspect to Neptune. On the other hand, Mercury is making an aspect to Jupiter, which is that sesquiquadrate, the long shot aspect that we talked about. So if the family is thinking about doing something that is rather on the extraordinary side, which is you're thinking about, you know, selling the house and moving into a bus, or taking a big family vacation, or, you know, some other thing like converting a room and putting that on Airbnb or something like that, this is a time to start that planning and see what could manifest from that. Additionally, if you need some sort of help resource-wise, like, you know, you need somebody to help you finish tiling the bathroom or to get your mortgage interest rate lower, again, reaching out to somebody through a phone call. And because this Jupiter is in your house of spirituality, actually beaming them a message first, then making the phone call or the text or the email, that's the most effective, you know. So like lighting a candle and visualizing them saying yes, or doing a prayer to say, you know, please let them say yes, and then contacting them. That's the best way to use this energy. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mars in your house of partnerships and other people. It's making that trine to Pluto in a money house, so I love that. And that in conjunct to that Jupiter. And that is saying that the thing in your way is your confidence, is your sense of deserving, your sense of, you know, who am I in the universe? And so some of that is solved by doing the Mars in Virgo, and that is to put in the work, to say, you know, this person needs this thing from me. They're not going to pay me a lot of money, but I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And, you know, doing what's that book title? Cal Newport, Being So Good They Can't Ignore You. So that's the energy for this. Additionally, the in conjunct here means that while you normally have a very active guardian angel, right now your angel seems to be on, you know, vacation or something. So it is that things are not going to come so automatically, and so it will be necessary for you to do the extra steps. You might have to call someone twice or 3 times to get them to pay you, or you might have to remind them that you have a meeting or something like that, and to not take this personally. It is just that right now, you know, sometimes you have to climb the mountain. Sometimes you're at the top of the mountain and everything's beautiful. But this is a time where you have to kind of climb the mountain. When it comes to money from traditional investments or your own business or a family business, Mars is making a semi-sextile to Venus, so there is an opportunity to make more money than usual. Not a huge amount, because this is kind of an irritating aspect. So this is more where you change your credit card company and therefore you get lower interest rates, or if it's merchant services that they're charging less for, you know, every transaction. It's like something like that, like something small that you do that ends up, you know, giving you extra hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So it is something small, some sort of tweak, you know, could even be like changing brokerage houses, or even moving from, you know, like a managed fund, professionally managed fund, to a self-managed fund, something like that, where you save yourself a little, but it adds up over the long run. When it comes to money derived from career, Mars is doing a sesquiquadrate to Saturn. And a sesquiquadrate is an interesting energy. It is a square plus a trine. And so this energy is, if you do this hard thing, then something good happens. But I usually see it as kind of a long shot because it's a minor aspect. So it's not as accessible energy. Now, what all this boils down to is that, like, if you're in the elevator with the CEO and you then could tell your idea and they think it's amazing and they want to give you an office or something like that, or perhaps you take the time to outline, changes for your department, and you email your supervisor with that, and they start to see, wow, this is an extraordinarily valuable employee. It is also if you are looking for a job and you're thinking, oh, maybe they're going to pay me, I don't know, $100,000 a year, but instead you ask for $150,000 a year, and they go, oh wow, well, and they end up giving you $140,000, and so you end up making $40,000 more a year. It's something like that. Like you kind of do the long shots and see what you get, and if it doesn't pay off, then it wasn't meant to be, and you let it go. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these would be the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to make happen, the moon's not making an aspect to Mars this time, and so you're not showing very good energy. The Mars is in your house of other people, and so this means that you perhaps need somebody else to help guide you through this, or you are waiting for somebody to get a contract to you, or to finalize something. You're waiting on somebody else, and over the next 2 weeks, what you are expecting to make may not manifest because of that. Now, with the Jupiter in your 12th house, making an inconjunct there, perhaps you have to make some phone calls, or you tell the universe, hey, I'm not happy. But recognize that if the universe is holding this up in general, there's probably a good reason. And so go work on something else while you're waiting for this to manifest, rather than pacing and saying, why isn't this happening? Don't try to force this. Allow yourself to work on something else and allow this the time it's going to take. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you're interested in getting a reading, just let me know. There is a link in the description box. And stay tuned, because LaRue wants to say hi.